One of the few true quarterback battles this preseason has come to an end. The Broncos saying Teddy Bridgewater is going to start at quarterback over Drew Lock. Joining me now from Locked On Broncos, Cody, Roark. And Cody, this is, I guess, a bit of surprise because Drew Lock was running with the ones a lot through the preseason, opening games as the starter. Why did the Broncos ultimately make this decision?
Yeah, Peter, I think it goes back to the start of minicamp, just a common rotation of both Teddy and Drew getting ample time with the first-team offense. Now, it's interesting, though, in the preseason, Drew got the start against the Minnesota Vikings in that first game. There were only two offensive starters that played on the offensive line, Lloyd Cushenberry, Brad Glasgow. Everybody else was kind of makeshift. So he never really, in my opinion, we didn't see it in the Seattle game. He didn't get a chance to really get with that first-team offensive unit. So I think there'll always be that question, what would it have looked like? And granted, for either quarterback, too, none of these guys have yet had the opportunity to throw to Cortland Sutton or Tim Patrick, guys who have not played so far this preseason, but Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, both guys have thrown a touchdown to KJ in this instance. But for the Broncos, they're going with a veteran option that they believe right now can take them to the next step with a really strong team around him. And Peter, I'll go back to when he was with the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees went down with an injury. They had a strong rushing attack, and they had a strong defense. Denver believes they have a strong rushing attack and a defense, and they believe they have weapons that Teddy Bridgewater can be successful as a quarterback in comparison to the offense that he was in Carolina last year. So they believe that Teddy gives them the best chance to win from right now, but still, the long-term outlook is kind of up in the air for the Broncos.
How much do you think the Broncos are losing potentially with Drew Lock's upside sitting on the bench? Because it seems like this was a decision made, okay, Teddy Bridgewater has a higher floor, but he probably is not going to take this team anywhere higher than 15, 14, maybe 13 in offense, whereas Drew Lock, if he hits his full potential, they could be explosive, and we saw the hints of it, especially in that Vikings game where he's throwing 80-yard touchdown passes to KJ Hamler. Teddy Bridgewater doesn't give you that same sort of dynamic.
Yeah, I think it goes to the point that Teddy probably plays the game a lot safer from the quarterback position, right? Denver last year, they led the league in turnovers in terms of interceptions. They were tied there with Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles last year. So I think the ball protection is one of the biggest things, because when you go back and you look at the Broncos win-loss column from last year, they lost probably 5 or 6 games in a combination of 6 points or less. And a lot of that was equated due to an offensive turnover, whether it be Drew Lock, whether it be a Melvin Gordon fumble. So they believe that maybe with safer quarterback play, a stronger defense that they've added pieces to this offseason, and now a run game where you've added Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, they believe they can be successful and they can compete inside the AFC West this season. But, it goes to mention, what do you lose by not having Drew Lock out there? It depends on how the organization views it. Is this it for Drew Lock in Denver? I'm not quite sure. I mean, he's still under contract, but the optics of this make it seem like Drew might be on his way out of Denver, at least maybe after this year, or if he's willing to sit and learn and wait for his time. He mentioned that in his post-practice press conference. So there's a lot riding on maybe how the season goes, but even Vic Fangio said it. Teddy Bridgewater has to focus on playing good football. So they could go to Drew Lock at some point this season if the offense stalls out with Teddy and if they're not getting it. Because Broncos fans sure know it. If the quarterback is struggling, they're going to boom off the field until the new guy comes in.
I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you a potentially unanswerable question. And I know you love those. What percentage do you think of this decision was made with the understanding that there is a chance, a who knows what that chance is, but there is a real chance that whoever is starting at quarterback this season is only starting at quarterback for this season? And I'll leave it at that.
Peter, I think to answer your unanswerable question, I think that there's a lot of factor into that decision right there, because you go through the draft day scenario. We talked about this on a previous episode of Locked On Today regarding Aaron Rodgers, the trade rumors. I mean, there's a chance after the season the Broncos maybe make a run after Aaron Rodgers if, in fact, Aaron does want to still continue to leave Green Bay. If he wants to stay put, obviously that's something that they'll probably work out. But outside of that, the decision for the Broncos at this point to pass on Justin Fields in the NFL draft with the 9th overall pick maybe signified that maybe they were looking a little too far ahead and maybe thinking that they were going to get Aaron Rodgers, or if they're not going to get him now, they have a chance to get him or somebody else after this next season. So I think that for the Broncos, maybe they viewed both Drew Lock as a make or break year for him. For Teddy Bridgewater, he's a one-year rental essentially. So What do you do with that? It gives George Paton all the time to evaluate all of his options. And so it may not be popular in the eyes of fans right now, but I think from a smart decision from George Paton's standpoint, it gives him flexibility as a GM to look at every option this upcoming offseason.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers might not be the only marquee name on the market. Russell Wilson, remember, he had his offseason of discontent as well, and who knows how this all plays out with Deshaun Watson, although it looks pretty bad for him right now. Thanks, Cody.